ball. Fuzzy ball. Hey, fuzzy ball. If it ever stops raining, we're gonna work today. Guys, we're gonna be planting some trees today. This video is brought to you by Food Forest Nursery. I'll post a link to their site down in the video description. It's never gonna stop raining, but that's good because we need rain to get these trees going. Woohoo! Hey guys, welcome back to the Stoney Ridge Farm channel. Today is an absolutely gorgeous day here on the Stoney Ridge Farm. I'm getting ready to use that, but I figured I'd toss it over in the back of the side-by-side. What we've got to do today is we're planting some edible landscapes on the farm. So not only edible landscapes, but actually hedgerows. Hedgerows for the cows. If there is one thing that I learned when I cleared my land for my farm, it was to leave some trees, and I didn't leave enough trees for the cows to have shade. Today we're going to correct that problem. We're going to have some fun. We're going to show you a variety of awesome trees that we're going to be planting today. Stoney Ridge Farm. Crabapple. Guys, welcome back to the Stoney Ridge Farm channel. If this is your first time or your 50 millionth time, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you back here on the farm with us. This is a 150-acre first-generation farm here in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and we're getting back to our roots, and these need to be put in the ground. These are crabapples, and we have several varieties of plants that we're going to be putting in the ground today to grow a food forest, basically, here on the farm. And this video is brought to you in part by our friends at Food Forestry Nursery. Food Forestry Nursery, turn your backyard into a food forest. So they have fruit trees, berries, nut trees, fruiting vines, natives, all kinds of different stuff. Anything from mulberry to black currants, wild elderberries, American plum. We'll be planting some of those today. American persimmon, all kinds of delicious and awesome food forest trees for your property, for your farm, whether you live on 10 acres, 5 acres, 3 acres, 1 acre, or 50 acres, 150 acres. So this is what we have here, and this is a bare root tree. And these are already starting to bloom. We're in early April here, and this is, again, crabapple. Crabapple is the only native apple tree to the United States, believe it or not. All the rest of the apple trees came from somewhere else. So this is a native tree, and we're trying to plant some native trees. Let's take you over here to the bucket where we have everything. So here's what we're planting, guys. And all this stuff came in a couple weeks ago. It came in boxes. It was really easy to unbox, open up, no problem whatsoever. But I had to put it into some medium to help keep the roots moist while I went out of town. So that's why it's like this. When you get your trees from Food Forestry Nursery, you need to take them out of the box and you need to put them in a bucket of water, okay? Just put them in a bucket of water, but change the water frequently. I was going out of town, so I did this, and this may have been the right thing to do and may not have been the right thing to do. I don't know, we'll find out. But you can see some of these are already starting to bloom out or blossom out. This is American plum. These are bald cypress, which are native to North Carolina, native to North Carolina. These critters right here are mean. They're little spiky critters, and they are Osage orange. If you don't know what Osage orange is, it's really cool, really hard wood. Makes great firewood and great fence post. Buried up underneath here, some chestnut, not American chestnut, Japanese chestnut. And then over here, we've got some chinkapins, which are native. Chinkapin chestnuts are native to North Carolina and Virginia. Here in the mountains, these are black walnut, and these are the chinkapins. So what the heck is this? Hold on, let me pull this out. Might as well. Oh, these are the surprise ones. These are the extras. Free Chinese chestnuts. These have a really big rootstock, and we're gonna have to grab the tractor and put our auger on to get those dudes in the ground, or hand dig them, but I'd rather use equipment. We've got the equipment. Bald cypress, these need to go in a wet area, very wet area, and we've got some wet areas on the farm down by our ponds and creeks and bottoms, so we'll plant some beautiful bald cypress. So without further ado, I'll show you the tools that we're going to be using today, and I've actually got a bucket of black walnuts. These are the walnuts that were grown on my dad's farm, my grandpa's trees. Grandpa planted those trees. And we also have some from Monticello, which is Thomas Jefferson's farm. And Thomas Jefferson is part of the inspiration for the food forest here on the farm. Thomas Jefferson believed in holistic land care and believed in building systems. And this is all about systems. So these will provide shade and food, which is going to be cool. Some of the trees will go out in the pastures, and some of them will be for the creatures of the edge, like deer, rabbits, bear, all sorts of stuff. So let's show you the cool tools that we're going to be using today. There's some neat things that you've probably never seen before. This is an auger. This is an auger that goes on your drill, okay? And it's the perfect size for planting these critters right here. So we'll auger down in the soil with our drill, and then we'll drop our little seeds in. We can also auger down in and plant some of the things like the bald cypress, because those roots need to go down about that far, really, really far, and this will work to do that. When you buy an auger for your drill for planting seeds and nuts and stuff like that, or trees, you want to make sure that you get an auger that's not going to make you bend over all the time. So if this auger was only this long, we'd be bending over all day long. We don't want to do that. There's probably 200 walnuts in here, and we're not going to plant all 200 or all these trees in this video. We're just going to tell you about what we're doing. That is a dibble, and that's what you use to plant your trees. And we'll demonstrate this here in just a second, so stick around. This is from Bully Tools. I'll post links to everything we're using, but this dibble is basically designed to stab into the ground. You put your foot right here, you stab it in the ground, you wedge open. This is really, really hard and really, really strong. You wedge open the ground, you drop your sapling or bare root seedling in, and you mash it down in the ground. Now, this is just a bag, and all this stuff again was bought on Amazon. This is Forestry Suppliers, little bag that you put on your hip, put our trees in this bag, and this is what the pro foresters use. When you hire a company to come in and plant trees, which we did probably, I think about 5 years ago, we cut the timber on the farm and we hired a company to come in and replant a second generation loblolly pine tree so that we would have trees to harvest for retirement. Really, I'm not going to cut those trees. I'll tell you that right now. I really enjoy having trees, and I get this question all the time. Whenever I'm working on the farm and I'm cutting trees for firewood, do you replace those trees? Trees replace themselves, guys, okay? We don't live out in the Sahara Desert. Trees replace themselves. So yes, I replace those trees with what we're growing here, but no, I don't replace the undesirable trees. There are a few trees on the farm that are invasive and undesirable that we don't want, so I don't replace those. This is desirable. Let's go get out in the pasture and I'll show you guys exactly what we're doing. These are crab apples. Crab apples probably don't need to be smack dab out in the middle of the pasture. The cows will destroy them. So crab apples are probably going to go for creatures of the edge, and a crab apple tree will actually pollinate an apple tree. So speaking of native species, that is an elderberry right there. I went ahead and I took whatever plants that I needed to and dipped them in some good cold fresh water. Now, you want to do this right after a rainstorm if you possibly can, or a couple days of rain, so that the ground is soft. We have a lot of rocks here on the Stoney Ridge farm, and I'm not too sure how good that dibble is going to dig, but we'll find out here in just a second. If there's a dead stump nearby, get it beside that dead stump. The nutrients from that stump rotting will actually help to feed the new trees that you just planted. So we're going to go ahead and take some crabapple, and I think I'm going to put 2 right in here. We're right here by this big beautiful elderberry, and the cows come right through here. So stab the dibble in the ground just like so. Okay, I'm going to drop my bare root tree right down in there. So just like the forestry guys do, we're just gonna stick it in the ground best we can right here. Okay, that's all we're gonna do. Then we're gonna stomp on one side, stomp on the other, and that's it. Now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna forget this trees here and mow it with the mower? No, sir. We're gonna go ahead and tie a ribbon around each one of these little saplings. So I think we have about 150 saplings. We'll tie a ribbon around each one as we plant it, and I'll try to memorize in my head what I planted, where I planted it. We're gonna do one more of these crab apples right over here. Like I said, do this after a rainstorm. This thing has to be stout. You can't just do it with a shovel. Reach in here, grab our bare root tree, slide it down in there, just like so. Bam. Little ribbon. All right, now we won't mow it, and we're good to go. That's how the dibble works. Pretty cool. We're gonna head on around and start planting some other types of trees in different spots. We're pretty close to the house right now, but we're gonna go way on the back side of the farm, and I'll show you how that auger bit works. All right, we got our drill bit, our auger bit right here, and we've got our bald cypress. These are absolutely gorgeous trees, guys. They're slow growers and they like to grow in a wet area. This is where I dug a couple ponds right here so we could pump water out in case we needed it for the animals and so we could have some wildlife spots for wildlife to get watered. So we're gonna be planting these in the ground very deep, okay? So you can look, the bare root on these doesn't look too awfully impressive. We want to plant them about that deep right there, which is about 6 inches or so, maybe 8 inches or so. So we're gonna go in the ground and we're just gonna run in here and auger these with the drill bit. I've never used this one before, so it's gonna be a bit of a challenge. We'll see how the Milwaukee drill holds up. Now the question you might be asking yourself, Josh, are deer gonna mess with these? Well, there's potential that the deer will mess with these trees. There is potential there. You could go, if this was a smaller area, the best way I've found to keep deer from nipping off or pulling up a tree is to put a piece of rebar in right beside it. Just mash in a piece of rebar right beside it. You can paint that rebar red so you don't accidentally mow over it or something like that in the future, or you could tie a ribbon around the rebar. We're gonna plant, I believe I pulled out 6 trees. I have 20 total trees, but this spot is just perfect for bald cypress, and we've got another spot way on the other side of the creek. So if you wanna make something beautiful, and these aren't edible landscapes, but they're beautiful, beautiful, odd looking trees. If you've never seen a bald cypress tree, Google it after. Most of our honeybee keeping equipment is cypress. Cypress is a lumber that is very water tolerant. It grows in the swamp, hence very water tolerant. It is wet in here. Oh my goodness, should have worn my mud boots. Woo-hoo-hoo! Good thing about the auger is you can reverse it. Right down in the ground. There we go. Bam. Awesome. I'm gonna say that was 6 trees in about 6 minutes. That auger bit is awesome. So this is a walnut, black walnut, and we want to plant that only about the depth of the walnut, not very far. You could actually, if it's really muddy or mucky out, you could just smush them into the ground, just smash them into the ground. Eventually, they'll shoot out a big old taproot. That big old taproot is this critter. So you see how much root is down here below the ground and how much plant is above the ground. There's probably, it's probably 50-50. Big old taproot shoots out of these guys, and once that root shoots out, you're good to go. If you want some good edible landscapes, these are edible and valuable timber. However, I'm 46. I won't live long enough for these to be harvested for timber. I will live long enough to see how beautiful they are out of my pastures, and this reminds me of my grandfather's home, and it also reminds me of going up to Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's place. So we're gonna go out in the pasture real quick. That's all we're gonna do for planting today, but we're gonna talk about how I'm gonna plant the pastures up before it starts pouring down rain, and we gotta move and feed the cows. What we're gonna do out in our pastures, I'll show you, is we're gonna start making some hedgerows. Grandpa had hedgerows on his farm. Hedgerows are very important for wildlife and to keep your cattle nice and cool and for the deer to bed down. So basically we're making areas for cows, deers, and everybody to live in harmony, all the critters on the farm. We're out in the middle of the pasture, and what do you see here? And this is not a common thing in North Carolina. You don't see any trees out here. What did I do wrong? So there was timber cut on this farm. We cut about 100 acres of timber. This was pasture, but it was overgrown in brush. I should have left some of those brushy trees up here in the pasture so that they would grow and provide shade for the cattle. I did not do that, and that is a bad mistake on my part. Later on in the year, you guys can tune in. We're gonna do a shade mobile. I've got an old pickup truck, and we're gonna build a shade system on it and be able to pull that out here in the pasture for the cattle. That'll be pretty fun. So we've got our pastures all sectioned off here, and guys, if you follow the channel, you know we're regenerative here. We don't put any type of chemical fertilizers, no sprays, no herbicides, no nothing on the land. This is just natural grasses that grew here and natural fertilizer coming out the cow's butt, okay? So we have a fence line right here. This is a poly fence line. It's an electric fence wire, and we're gonna plant our hedgerows right up under and or around those fence lines. And the reason we're doing that is so we can fence it off so the cows don't get in here and destroy it. After about 3 years, we'll be able to take the fence line down, hopefully, and that will allow the cows to get in there and for this to flourish. But we won't have shade for quite some time, which is kind of a bummer. So that's kind of what's going on out here in the pasture. We don't want straight lines, okay? There aren't straight lines in nature in most cases, and we don't want straight lines in our pasture. So we're gonna make U-shaped hedgerows, just a little U-shape. So like a horseshoe shaped hedgerow right here, another one up there, another one right there, and all throughout the fields. Year after year after year, we'll come in and we'll plant more and more trees out here on the farm. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys. We're gonna run over. You guys can watch in the end credits. I gotta get the cows moved and I gotta roll out a bale of hay to them. Take care, guys. Have a great day. Let's go feed the cows together. Woo! Well, come on down to the Stoney Ridge. Bring your wife and bring your kids. We're living life pure and sweet. That's the way it's supposed to be, Stoney Ridge. Yep, you take the good, you take the bad, you take the trees, and there you have the facts of life. So this video is brought to you in part by a guy that doesn't know how to position his camera. That makes for a nice wet butt. We're ready to go. Come on, rain, give me some rain, baby. Oh, trash, always trash. Stop it. Stop it. That's a day, baby.